the fighter jet doesn't know who you are, and I think we just need to really just kind of have a think about that point. And I thought I'd clarify it a little bit after the comments in the last video. When you crew into a fast jet, when you strap yourself in and you're starting the engines are coming up, you're turning the TVs on and you're typing in your route, or you're uploading your weapons data, there isn't a screen in the airplane for you to enter your ethnicity or your age or your sex or your gender, whatever the terms are now. That doesn't exist in fast jets. It doesn't exist in fighter jets. So the jet doesn't know who you are. You can't tell it who you are. It doesn't care. It's just going to kill you if you're not good enough. If you lack the ability to fly that airplane to the level that it demands, it will just kill you. And it killed my friends. It killed a lot of people I flew with in my 20 years as an RAF instructor. And of course, we were talking in that last video about going back into the Air Force, and is it solvable, the way that diversity has taken hold in those senior levels? I think, to be fair, there's an aspect of brainwashing that's gone on with those seniors, and like promotes like, and I think we see it in things like the BBC, and I think we see it in health and education. And of course, as I said last time, no one's going to admit that maybe they were wrong. They've played quite a crafty game. They've gone along with this Emperor's New Clothes, and unfortunately for the rest of us, it's alienated a lot of good people. A lot of people left, of course, and a lot of people like me probably won't ever go back and teach people. And of course, they are asking guys like me to go back. So I get called racist a lot of time, and I thought I'd address that a little bit because the comments had a few of those slurs in it. And my argument here, and it's probably not a heavily nuanced one, so the comments help a lot with my understanding of this, so thank you for that. And if you can help me on this one, I would appreciate it. When someone calls me a racist, it's very interesting to me, because I've flown with I don't know, all different colours of people, races of people, you know, skin colours. I can't even know. I mean, I'm trying to work it out now. Saudis, guys from the UAE, Qatar, India. I've missed out loads, haven't I? Women, ages. I think my youngest student was, I think, about 19, and my oldest, student-wise, I think in their, mid-30s. Well, no, older than that, because I flew station commanders and all sorts, so guys in their 50s, really. And I didn't care who they were. Like, that didn't bother me. But what I was concerned about was whether they were going to kill me. So I was concerned about their ability. And my job, of course, was to make them better, make them competent enough to be able to fly that fast jet, to be able to survive on the missions that we took them on, low level, night, all the stuff that is just going to kill you if you get it wrong. Air combat, crikey, all that stuff. So when people call me racist, I'll tell you the interesting thing about this. I think I've kind of worked it out. I think we're dealing with I know people talk about a mind virus, don't they? Like a woke mind virus. I don't really know too much about that. But I know that it doesn't have a place in the military if you want a competent military based on a meritocracy. It cannot possibly exist in a meritocracy in the military. And I think that's quite of interest, because one of the things that I keep coming back to is, if I'm the guy that is not concerned with someone's race, sex, gender, I'm the guy that's not concerned with it, because I'm just concerned with how good they are. If I'm the guy that's going to put these people in an airplane with me to fly me, my body's there. I've got a wife here. I've got a house, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I have responsibilities. I can't just die. I'm not allowed to. I've got to. That's another factor. And people go, you should do it for free. It's like, yeah, but that's because you're saying that in the comments because you're 10. You don't have a mortgage or car payments. You know what I mean? I can't just go and work for free, mate. So I do need to get paid, unfortunately, if you go back into the military. But if I'm the guy that's happy to fly with these people, no matter who they are, no matter what nationality they are, no matter what gender, sex they are, no matter what age they are, no matter what their skin colour, couldn't care less. If I'm the guy that's willing to fly with all these people without consideration to all of that, but you are telling me that I'm a racist because to you everything is based around some kind of racial ideology or sex or gender. Which one of us is really the racist here? Which one of us really is thinking about someone's race or someone's sex? Is it me who's flying with these people without a shadow of concern? I genuinely don't care. I just care about how good they are and how good I can make them. Or is it the other person that's telling me I need to be treating them better or employing more black people? Why? Because they're black? Is that why I've got to put people in airplanes? Because they're a black person or because they're a girl? I mean, how dismissive is it to that black person or that woman that you're telling me that the only reason I have to train them is because of something they can't change, something they were born with, which was their skin colour or their sex or their gender, whatever. I don't understand gender that well. Which one of us really is the one that's concerned with race and is trying to repress someone else because of their race? I'm fascinated by this, guys. People tell me how, they literally are telling me what I should be doing training women in fast jets when they have trained no women. They've trained none at all. I've trained all of them. Like every woman that went into a fast jet in the last decade, I trained. Genuinely, that's not a lie. If you know women on the front, well, you won't know women on the front line, but female fighter pilots in the Royal Air Force, I trained them up until 2018. I trained all the men. Failed a lot of them, in fact. You know, I had to get them new careers and stuff. I didn't ever like doing that, but the alternative was to speak to their parents and tell them why their son or their daughter had been killed. It's never nice, and I don't think students fully appreciate the empathy instructors have in looking after them. I mean, we truly are responsible for their lives in the same way that they're responsible for mine, and that's why there's this high level of maturity in a cockpit, if that makes sense. And I don't expect people to understand it, but there is a real cohesion between instructor and student. Also, in fast jets, it's not like you're sitting in a Cessna or a Piper. I don't know much about civilian airplanes, but what I mean is you don't sit next to each other. Like when you're flying in like a little light airplane, you'd be like this, wouldn't you? And you, hello mate, you're all right? Yeah, I'm good, thank you. And you can see what each other's doing. In a fast jet, you're like this. I'm sitting behind them, so I can't see their expressions. I can't see their skin colour. I don't know they're a woman until they start speaking. It's the most ludicrous thing when you think about it, that someone would tell someone else how to do something that they have no experience of doing before. People always say to me, and this is interesting as well, they say, I've got a tea here actually, got a wet. They always say to me, women are less able to fly jets than men. I always find that interesting. It's like, well, I've flown with women, and I've flown with men, and let me tell you, there's some awful female pilots and there were some awful male pilots, to be fair. It didn't seem to favour one another. The other thing that I would say though is we see far fewer female pilots than we did men, although there's a lot more female pilots going in now. And I understand representation, women wanting to see other women in the service. I fully appreciate that. But there wasn't any difference to me. Now, the one difference between men and women that I did see was the fact that women, of course, have to have kids at some point. Also, a woman would come into my office sometimes, a student, and they'd say, I can't fly today, sir. I'll be like, all right, go and tell the programmers then, we'll fly tomorrow. Let me know when you're better, we'll get you fly. It doesn't matter if you're ill and you can't fly, or you're under the weather and you can't fly. And a lot of the times, of course, this was period issues. This is women because women's bodies are different to men's. Shock horror. I don't know whether I'm allowed to say that on YouTube without, I'll probably get demonetized now for saying women are different to men, aren't I? But let's just say female fighter pilots and male fighter pilots had different bodies. Can we say that? The internal organs were a little bit different. Now, when you've got period pains and you've got G-suits on you, you've got this inflatable bladder wrapped around your legs and wrapped around the abdomen, not the lower pelvic area, but the abdomen. And that's going to squeeze. Air comes from the engine when you start pulling G. It inflates these trousers, these G-pants. In Typhoon, it inflates the chest as well, forced air in. But in the Hawk that I taught on, it inflates the legs, and it keeps the blood from going to your brain and from your heart. It keeps you conscious because it stops it going to your leg. It really squeezes. It also squeezes around the abdomen. And with period pains, apparently that's quite uncomfortable, I've heard. Women have told me it's quite uncomfortable. So when they are having periods, of course, then they don't necessarily always want to fly. And you leave it up to them. I'm not going to challenge that. Crikey, I have no understanding of that whatsoever. The other thing, of course, that women tend to go on birth control stuff to stop that happening so they can fly. And no one, man or woman, wants to drop back off their course. They all want to stay flying on their course because they know the people. If they drop back, they have to go back on another course. So people tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about when it's teaching people, whether it's women or minorities, to fly. I find that really interesting, but I'm almost 50, so I'm not upset about it. You know what I mean? I just find it interesting that people talk about that. I've probably had a load more to talk about, and of course, I've probably forgotten it. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think we can stop this diversity push into our public sector institutions, whether it's in the United Kingdom, whether it's in America. I think it's taken hold. I think it's there. I think it's Common Purpose is the company in the UK, I think, that indoctrinate our seniors into inclusivity. And even then, when I actually said in the last video about painting a rainbow coloured crossing at RF Bryce Norton. Someone wrote in one of my comments, well, actually, the kids love it, Tim. The kids love it. It's outside the nursery and the kids love it. And so I went and found the article from the Royal Air Force, and I sent it to this guy, and I said, it specifically says on the bottom of the article that this is to do with supporting LGBTQ and diversity and inclusivity. And these are fucking 3-year-olds. These are young kids. And you're trying to indoctrinate them with this poisonous narrative. I don't get it. I don't get why you'd wake up one morning and go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and indoctrinate little kids. I haven't got kids, so, you know, God, imagine how aggressive I'd be if I did have kids. I just don't know whether I could contain myself if someone was trying to push that ideology on small little children. I mean, they don't know any better, do they? They're literally so young. They're just so impressionable, and you're trying to tell them they can be anything. At 3, when I was 3, I wanted to be an Alsatian. I wanted to be a dog. I remember saying to my mum, she said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I thought, I want to be a dog. I thought dogs were cool. They're furry and they run around and chase balls. I thought it was interesting. And now we're telling kids that they can be anything. They can be gay and lesbian, and they can be trans. And how confusing must that be? Well, what happened to kids? What happened to the childhood that these young'uns could have? I think it's criminal. I really do. I think, honestly, and I was going to leave the video now, guys, because, you know, I get excited about this stuff because, I don't know, I think we should care. And I think when we stop caring, when the last person stops caring, I think this whole thing is going to collapse like the Roman Empire. I can't see any other way around it. I've been watching what's going on in those universities in the blue states in America, this Palestine, you know, thing where tent cities, and I just don't understand how there's not a coming together of minds and a sitting down and a narration about these, and to the students there, and saying, "Your students, we're supposed to have a chat about this, you know, but there's violence." I don't understand it. I just think we need to care, and we need to keep the conversation open. And I don't think that conversation is necessarily being had, I suppose. So either way, yeah, I'm not overly convinced I'm going to join the Air Force again, but I am going to put an application in because I want to let you guys know what the application is, what the process is, and what the offer from the Air Force is as well, because I still care about the Air Force. It's like an abusive relationship, isn't it? I had a mate that was beaten up really badly by his girlfriend, and we never knew it was happening. He almost killed himself. We never knew it was happening. We never knew it was happening until eventually melted this guy and just told us what was going on. It was like crazy. It was a really big argument in a pub. And it was like, mate, you're right. And he just broke down and told us. But like the military is a bit like that, where it might be in an abusive relationship with the military, but you still care. You still care that it functions. You still care that the students are the best. Occasionally, here, I'm in the countryside, I'll get a jet over my house, and it'll be a Hawk, and I'll be typing away, teaching my students in my school, and whew, over the top, and I'm like, lad or ladette. I'm like, that's what you need, that aggression, that passion, that soul, to be able to go through that training pipeline and succeed. It's a real hard thing to do. 5 to 7 years worth of, and someone's found my house. Excellent. I keep it secret, but I think they all know where I live now. And I think it's excellent. I think it's great. And yeah. So hopefully we've still got that, but I will put the stuff up at the application to the Air Force. It will break me. If I went back in, it would be the last thing I did. I'll be dead by 55, but I'll be interested to see what the Air Force is offering, or whether they even employ me. And I very much doubt they would. I really appreciate you listening, guys. And I really appreciate the comments, because that is the conversation. Thank you for that. I'm sorry I got a bit animated about young kids. I just think it really is something like, it should be a crime to do that, surely, to indoctrinate young people who've got no, let's leave it. Let's have a great time. I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much. Tim Davies, Fast Ship Performance.